agree with that. I agree with that.
Akash, I mean, do you agree with that hypothesis that we could get a tactical rally going, but it may not be the real thing? And do you Samir is saying it may happen next year. Could it happen sooner than that?
Even precise timing is very difficult, but I think Samir's point is valid in the sense that break up the market into two aspects. There's a cyclical problem in the market right now, which is rising interest rates, rising inflation, high commodity prices, a Reserve Bank being one of the most aggressive central bank in the world. I think that problem will be largely start getting resolved sometime by the middle of next year, and the market will, being a discounting mechanism, will be preemptive and start rallying before the Reserve Bank actually cuts, and probably will start rallying as soon as they feel the Reserve Bank is done with its tightening policies. So that's one part, and I agree with Samir that's a cyclical rally that will happen sometime. I think probably either in the last, the next 3 to 6 months. We can't predict exactly when, but that combined with the fact that there's a relief rally for Europe and various things. I think what Samir is alluding to, which I've also written a lot about in the past, is that there is also the beginnings of a secular problem towards India, in the sense that if we ask this panel, or at least most people I talked to 12-18 months ago, we all would have felt that India's long-term trend rate of growth is somewhere between 8 and 8.5%. Today there's a growing body of thought which feels that we are lucky if we get 7% over the next 5 to 7 years as our trend rate of growth, given all the lack of policy reform and initiative. And 7 and 8 or 6.5 and 8.5, it's 2 percentage points of GDP. If you compound that over 7 or 8 years, that's a very, very significant delta in terms of earnings growth, market performance, wealth creation. So I think the secular problem in India is the drift which is happening in terms of policy decisions, and this lack of confidence of corporate India with what's going on. The way all the stuff people have talked about for many times. If this drift doesn't get arrested, and if people get more and more convinced that India's trend rate of growth is not 8 to 8.5, it's 6 to 7 or somewhere in that range, I think that is a recipe for PD rating. People will start asking, why do I need to be in India if they're going to grow at 6.5%? And a lot of people will get very significantly disappointed. I don't think we're at the point of no return where the trend rate of growth is actually 6 or 7. But I think that if this drift and lack of decision making and lack of confidence among decision makers, both corporate, retail, government, bureaucrats, continues, there is a possibility over the next 6 to 12 months that will become a new trend rate of growth. In which case the market is not priced for that. I mean, today I don't think anyone is pricing in financial year March 13 Indian GDP growth being 6.5. No one's building that in. You look at any analyst estimates, any economic estimates, they're all talking about economic growth accelerating for financial year 13. I think there's a 30-35% chance you come in between 6 and 7% for financial year 13. So I think that is Samir's point, which is that there is a risk of a secular derating. It's not happened yet. We're moving in that direction. But before that happens, and I think the market and investors will not be preemptive. They will, for this change for this secular derating argument, they will want to see government action. They'll want to see reforms. They'll want to see better decision making in India, and then they will give the government the benefit of the doubt. You will be preemptive on the cyclical side. You will preempt the RBI tightening cycle when it gets over, and you will start building in a discounting of RBI loosening rates. But people, I don't think, are going to be preemptive vis-a-vis reforms, decision making, how they feel about India and its long-term growth. They'll want to see decisions being taken in Delhi. So that's the balance of the dilemma investors have. There's a cyclical rally coming because of the interest rate cycle, but we should probably give a floor under the market and hopefully some upside. But there is the risk of the sword around with that you could be getting into a secular derating environment. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but I think there's a risk of that.